get on my Facebook. Got it, perfect. All right. Good evening, everybody. I'm Rachel Marks. I am the network coordinator for SPARC Network. I am a white, middle-aged woman with purple hair, purple shiny glasses with glitter in the corner, and I'm wearing a red top with a black shirt underneath, and over my shoulder you'll see a white fireplace with a teal, or you'll notice, sorry, a white fireplace with a teal bookshelf. That was totally wrong. Sorry, I've thrown myself off. I'm just going to go right into the fact that I'm joining you today from what is currently referred to as Leeds and Grenville County, but is the traditional lands of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, Mississauga, and Algonquin peoples. This area is covered under the Crawford Purchase of 1783, and this summer, while I was trying to educate myself a little more, I read a really interesting article about when the purchase was happening, lands were given that were not part of the original agreement. And that is what's left the Algonquin people of this area struggling to reclaim their land ever since. Most notably would be around Charlotte Lake in the early 2000s. Today, we have the privilege of joining together virtually and using technology that is steeped in the colonial mindset and that continues to marginalize Indigenous communities around the province. The need for better access to internet and technology in our Indigenous communities is ongoing and something we should take a moment to consider and try to bring about, and is also somewhat tied into tonight's presentation. So tonight we are joined by Jessa Agilo from ArtsPond to introduce the new program, Together There. I'll just tell you a little bit about Jessa. Jessa Agilo is a respected changemaker devoted to thinking differently about how to nurture healthy ecosystems through the wisdom and care of the arts. She has more than 30 years of experience in the arts and culture sector as a creator, producer, knowledge seeker, and serial social entrepreneur. She's been founder, president, and CEO of ArtsPond since 2014. She's a fellow of the Toronto Arts Council's Leader Lab and Wolf Willow's Positive Deviance. Her work on digital and economic issues has been featured in international media, including Culture 24 in the UK, the Canadian Press, CBC, Globe and Mail, and Toronto Star. Welcome, Jessa.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you. I'm so honored and excited to be here with all of you virtually. So I am a white, transgendered woman. I'm wearing black and brown with red glasses. I have a green screen behind me, so my eyes disappear from time to time against the background. I apologize for that. It's not a perfect match. And behind me is a virtual background that's water themed. It's kind of a greenish blue teal color with some kind of a feel of a pond that's relatively dark with some numbers floating around that come from a plan for a garden plot. Water and nature theme is my background. So I'm here to talk about Together There, a creative thought residency on digital justice and the arts. I won't have time to describe absolutely every slide in detail, but I'll try to evoke the feeling, and where there's mission critical information, I will absolutely impart that. The graphic that we're seeing today for the marketing for Together There is kind of a pink, orange, mauvey, and green and blue themed of a bunch of tiles, like images or photographs or portfolio images in 4 columns in different shapes inside them, like little diagrams that are like markers on a map, or some of them kind of have the feeling of like a currency signs, or like the yen one is similar to the yen currency sign. So that's kind of a description of what we've got to start off. I want to acknowledge that I live in Tikaranto, which is Treaty 13 territory, part of the traditional home and territories of the Huron-Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas of the Credit. which is part of the Dish with One Spoon territory between the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Allied nations that bind them to peaceably share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. So it's a privilege for me to rely on the history of great idea, care, and community building that Indigenous folks have brought to this land. And I recognize the systemic histories of white colonialist oppression that happens on this land, and that I'm a part of and a beneficiary of, and that I must challenge that deeply complicated, deeply inspiring journey that we all share in every day of my work going forward, and in the communities that I work with. Today, I'm going to talk about a little bit about who I am and what ArtsPond is working on, and why we're interested, and why I'm interested in digital issues, and why together there, what is digital justice a little bit, and like why are we interested in that, and what's happening now, what's coming up in terms of opportunities to participate, to potentially apply for some jobs. There's quite a few jobs coming up that are available now, and so how you can get involved and support the project. So I'm just going to dive in, if you don't mind. In terms of myself, you can reach out to me. I'm available to have an exploratory meeting with anyone about anything at any time. Half an hour. There's a link at artspond.com/explore with Jessa, and you can schedule a half-hour meeting with me to talk about anything. I'm here to listen and learn and collaborate. You can also reach out to me at jessa@artspond.com. I'd like to acknowledge that ArtsPond is very generously funded by Canada Council for the Arts Digital Strategy Fund, Canada Summer Jobs Program at the federal government, and the City of Toronto for our Access Art project, which is an exciting critical access collaboration with Devon Ostrom. A little bit about ArtsPond. The graphic here is another water-themed feel. It's an art piece with blue and purple and yellow and green, I don't know, like droplets of water that are tied to like a stream of I don't know, like ripples on a pond or something. They go from left to the right, and one of the streams goes into the bottom of the graphic, down into the depths of the water. And off to the left, this visual image is a description of ArtsPond, and I will read it now. So ArtsPond is a caregiver and a change maker of a different sort. Our mandate is to nurture healthy ecosystems of care that bolster intersectional approaches to social, spatial, economic, ecological, digital, and accessibility justice in human, virtual, and natural life. We do so by fostering cooperative actions, fusing the wisdom and values of social innovation and community engaged arts. That's a handful. Basically, we are trying to systemically and creatively address the intersectional issues that are exacerbating the precarity, the lack of appreciation, awareness, and empowerment and opportunity of arts workers, particularly equity-seeking, Indigenous, racialized, outside the core, which for us includes suburban, rural, remote, and disability artists. Arts workers for us includes artistic, creative, and cultural industries. It includes artists, creators, it includes educators, producers, and managers, thinkers. It includes young people, older people, like myself. We like to try to bring a very diverse community together to look at what is the problem in the community that is not it's not our fault, and what can we do to change those things. Also looking at the strengths of the artistic community and how can we amplify and nurture those strengths and opportunities and make sure that others that aren't listening are listening and engaging with us. On the screen, while I've been talking, is a graphic of our very first strategic plan for our first decade from 2014 to 2023. So we're winding down on that strategic plan. The name of that strategic plan is Share Well, Live Well, or in French, bilingual, is Share Well, Vivre Bien. Our focus for the past 10 years, or 8 years going to our 10th year, has been 4 primary justice areas that are strengthening and challenging the opportunities and strengths of the artistic sector. They include social issues, spatial issues, digital issues, and fiscal or economic issues. And for us, those 4 challenges, from everything from gentrification to indigenous reconciliation to economic precarity amplified by the pandemic, to digital transformation and digital justice and new technology development for gig workers, all of these things for us are essential intersectional components of what we're calling equity justice. That's our aspiration for the first decade, is looking at what are the barriers and opportunities for promoting equity for underserved, marginalized, disempowered, and quite frankly, beautiful, wonderful, inspiring folks in our community, right? And for us as a social innovation and artistic organization, we are interested in looking at organizations that are interested in social change and challenging the status quo from outside artistic communities. The United Nations, a number of years ago, established the 2030 Global Sustainable Development Goals framework, which was meant to try to unite and evaluate and share the impact efforts of the entire planet to fight the sustainability issues, barriers to a thriving and quite frankly, livable planet for humans and natural life. And there are 17 measures as part of the SDGs, many people call them the Sustainable Development Goals. And we're interested in 12 of them, including no poverty, gender equality, climate action, sustainable cities and communities, and good health and well-being. So as a part of this strategic plan, we're trying to develop programming that ties to these different goals. For our next, just to give you a little bit of insight to where we're shifting for our next strategic plan, starting in 2024, we're still working on that plan and working on a reframing of how we talk about ourselves as not a change maker, but a caregiver. Trying to support the different streams and opportunities and ways of thinking and being and doing in the artistic community, from creation, from engaging communities, from sharing and developing platforms, tools and opportunities and ideas, and caring for our planet and caring for our communities. So we have these kind of 4 streams of activities that we're developing. The Create stream is trying to get away from not only doing art services, but actually getting into creating art and curating art and supporting artists in the making of art, looking at trying to center the values of artistic wisdom. Engage is about amplifying opportunities that support the cultural economy. So looking at systems of precarity. Share is about then building systems of support, platforms, technologies, policies, and so on from the arts services community that are very cooperative, that bolster access for everyone, particularly these marginalized folks that we've been talking about, to these caring ways of being. And then care is really looking at artists being leaders of not just systemic change, but care for our planet and all the challenges that we're faced with. We are, I think, generally in our artistic community are not well appreciated, well understood as potential necessary leaders of this type of conversation. And this is really where we're trying to go as an organization. looking at human, digital, and natural life with climate action coming into future activities. Just to give a little, just very, very quickly, this is some of the work that we're doing around reimagining how we talk about. So there's the 4 streams with 7 categories on the outside, including action, justice, process, culture, impact, ecology, and equity as our priorities of how we are going to focus on 63 individual measures for realizing the Sustainable Development Goals. And this is a graphic that has a visualization of the 63 priorities at the outer side of the circle. And then inside the circle, you'll see the 7 priorities I just mentioned. And then in the inner side of the circle, and it kind of looks like an eye socket with maybe 2, so there's 2 circles in the inside. One side is blue, one side is green, and there's a bunch of lines reaching out to the 63 priorities on the outside circle. And they vary from things like the kinds of processes we're interested in, such as impact practices and collective impact and building open source solutions that look at right relations and so on, to like what communities we are supporting, change makers, creators, curators, and so on. And the graphic here is a visualization of 2 projects that we're working on, a spatial justice projects, Ground Story and Ground Trust, and to show the interconnections of our work. I just want to point out at the very top the 4 actions that we are using as the core of our work: ecosystem building, knowledge building, co-creation labs, and the 4th one I've covered up myself. The 4th one, of course, is platform building. And I would like to reference those when we are talking about our digital projects. All of our priorities and the way we operate are tied to these 4 types of structuring community engagement and structuring action. So let's talk a little bit about those now. On the graphic now on the screen share are 3 logos for 3 different projects. Digital ASO. ASO stands for Arts Service Organizations, and it's a bilingual logo with OSA Numérique being the Francophone version of Digital ASO. And it's kind of green, a purple, yellow, a blue, and orange. And those colors are meaningful. We'll talk about that in a minute. In the middle, and that's on the left-hand side, in the middle is the logo for Hatch Open, which is purple. And on the right-hand side is the logo for Arts United, which is green. Digital ASO is a multi-year project that started in 2017. We've done many things, including ecosystem building, knowledge building, and co-creation lab activities. Broadly, we're asking the question, what does a positive digital future look like to you? You being all the artistic communities that we've been talking about across Canada. And the follow-up question to that, as an arts service, change maker, caregiver, support service organization, we're asking, what is the role of digital arts services in helping us get there? Us being individual communities and our collective ecology. Hatch Open is a platform building project. All of these 3 projects are, by the way, are funded very generously by the Digital Strategy Fund at Canada Council, all multi-year, multi-phase large projects. Hatch Open is an open source arts management software platform focused on financial management, impact investing, and ecosystems mapping. And Arts United is an ecosystem building project, which is a proposed platform cooperative for gig economy workers in the arts that will be powered by Hatch Open. I just want to talk I'm taking up too much time on this, so we want to get together there, but I'll talk briefly about each of these projects just to give you a sense. And for me, these are essential fodder, both for capacity building for organization in terms of learning about digital issues, building up trust with communities so that we can get to what I think is the nitty-gritty of how we transform communities and platforms and the system as a part of together there. So we'll get to that in a minute. So let's talk about each of these three projects. So Hatch Open and Arts United to me are reliant and dependent on one another. Hatch Open, as I say, is a financial management software platform that's focusing on budgeting, payment processing and invoicing as a part of that budgeting process. So you can create a budget, set some goals, share those goals and those budgets with your community, and as an impact investing platform, receive investments, donations, or sell services through the platform. On the screen, you'll see a bunch of images of folks and drawings and photographs of sticky notes from our human-centered design workshops that happened in Toronto, Sudbury, and Ottawa. And off in the top right-hand corner, you'll see a little graphic of just one little tidbit of some of the knowledge that we learned from those workshops, including the question, what does a digital life in the arts look like to you, ideally and in reality? And the graphic there has a summary of desires and barriers for digital life of these gig economy, precarious, amazing, inspiring arts workers. Their desires include things like for their digital lives, including Hatch Open. What they want Hatch Open to be is accessible, automated, centralized, connected, customized, environmental, not impacting our communities and our planet, being integrated and meaningful, being non-linear and streamlined. We could do a whole workshop on what these mean in themselves, but to me, these are very important words that I've been thinking very deeply about now for 2.5 years. On the barrier side is affordability, burnout, disconnection, fragmentation, learning curves, obsolescence, ownership, and privacy. There is, as a part of this project, we thought we'd do like 6 months of some human outreach, but we ended up needing to do almost 2 years, including a whole residency with equity-seeking arts workers. And those are the images of the Black, Indigenous, and disability arts folks at the bottom right of the image that participated in that project as a collaboration with Work and Culture and the OCAD, Inclusive Research Design Center, and the Ontario Co-op Association. We really looked at what would the platform, not what the software platform would look like specifically, but what would the governance of a platform cooperative need to be. From this artist perspective, the idea of a platform cooperative is that they would own the software, they would own the community, they would get to decide what the community becomes and how members as a for-profit cooperative, how they financially benefit from participating and supporting the platform. So we're looking to build an open source platform that will then empower a community to manage themselves, collaborate and connect with each other, raise money for the project, celebrate each other's projects, and then if it goes large enough around the world, to benefit financially from being a part of the project and part of the ecosystem that's building it up from the ground in the early days. This is the next screen here is just a graphic of some of the behind the scenes work that we've been doing on designing a very complicated chart of accounts that will accept an import of a chart of accounts, like a budget, in most formats, and it will use some machine learning to scan your budget template, whether it's Excel or a PDF, and try to understand how your budget is structured and import it automatically into our chart of accounts so that we can display it for you in a standardized way, comparable to other members and comparable to communities, and reportable to the Canada Revenue Agency, and for organizations that use CADAC to the federal government in a much more easy way. So you'll have a chart of accounts that has currently up to more than 5,000 line items, and you can decide to use 10 of them, 100 of them, or 200 of them, or as many as you like. So that you can manage your detailed project information, but then always upscale it in a good, sustainable, predictable way so that you can generate your reports to whoever you need to. So there is down in the bottom left-hand corner there a graphic of the chart of accounts, balance sheet, just some of the line items that's gone into that. In the middle of the graphic is a preview of some of the wireframing of what a homepage might look like for the artist. It's very similar to Facebook, say, or LinkedIn. But what's very important about this graphic are two buttons included that are featured at the top there, one in pink, which is store, and the one in blue, which is support. So store is the idea where you can sell services, and support is where you can receive donations and impact investments. Down in the bottom of that visualization, there are menus for story, portfolio, goals, impact, and perspectives, and there are many other options. But the idea of storytelling is to tell your artistic story in a flexible way, and to share your work in the portfolio in a predictable way, and to share some goals that can be, I don't know what my goals are. What are other people's goals? Okay, I like that goal. I want to take that goal, and then compare your goals to others and share them, and share your impact and so on, using templates that are available by the community. And off to the right is an example of one of the forms that we're wireframing just to collect information. And some of the language for us is like software that you can hold in one hand, so that there's no more than 5 questions that are being asked at any one screen or any one time. And you'll notice that in the preview of the software is there's only 5 menu items anywhere, only groups of 5 icons, no more than that. And that's the case with this question about your experience. Are you an individual? Are you a company? Are you looking for personal or professional budgeting? Are you a consumer, or are you an arts worker? And so on. There's these groups of digestible, understandable, relatable human information. Okay, so I've gone way too long on that, but I'm excited by this stuff. So there you go. Digital ASO is a very complicated project, and there's actually 2 icons that are missing. There we go. I animated them and I didn't realize. That has started with research way back before the launch of the Digital Strategy Fund, trying to understand what needs are in the community. And that survey was called Managing Creativity in a Digital World, or Gestion de la créativité dans un monde numérique. It was a bilingual survey to gig workers, and we relied on the results of that information to decide about Hatch Open and what it should do, and to realize that we needed a national scoping of what digital issues are and how to build an ecosystem of support. So that's what Digital ASO is. And we did a symposium also before the launch of the Digital Strategy Fund in 2017, that was in Ottawa and Toronto. We did a international symposium in 2019 with a theme of all digits on deck. And the graphic for that is very much like a scan code for products, with a bunch of lines with circles and squares looking like people coming out of the barcode. So those projects are over. We're currently doing a whole series of national roundtables scoping what a national digital arts services alliance might look like, in order to realize the positive digital, to support and realize the efforts that are happening across the country to realize a positive digital future. In 2021, we did a bunch of dialogues that resulted in a whole knowledge framework that I'm going to talk about briefly as a part of Together There, Precedent. There is a knowledge report coming. It's taking longer than I want to prepare it, but it's called So Far: Collective Steps Toward a Positive Digital Future in Canadian Arts and Culture, that will be the culmination of the Digital ASO work thus far. And that'll probably be coming. I wanted it to be available now, but it's probably not going to be ready until the summer. So that's Digital ASO. A part of Digital ASO roundtables, I've got some graphic recordings I can share. So I don't have time to go into all the nitty gritty of these graphic recordings, but we'll make this PDF available to the SPARC community. So you're more than welcome to download these. And actually there's a blog article on our website that has these but I'll make this presentation available so you can go to SPARC and download this information and look at them at your leisure. But this is a graphic recording of the discussion of roundtables from all of the North, all the territories. And really the issue that came in the North was affordable access to data and internet and technology infrastructure. There are many other issues, but that was by far the resounding one. This is a beautiful artistic graphic of one of two beautiful artistic graphics from the Western Canadian roundtables, the final roundtables, which was really talking about what their wishes are going forward. And there's this challenge of both what is true and real and what we're ready for and what we're not. And that there's a knot of both our wishes and our reality. So this graphic has a knot in the middle, blue for true from the bottom left, and orange in the top right for the true, not true, in terms of the disaster that we're faced with versus the amazing community and connection and ideas and inspiration and opportunities that we have in terms of shifting and empowering digital opportunities. The last graphic, in terms of together there, is the best one because it was comes from a roundtable for Black and Indigenous folks, which was basically trying to understand the question, what the heck is digital justice in the artistic community? And it was facilitated by the amazing person, Nazma Ahmed from the Digital Justice Lab here in Toronto. If you're not familiar with the Digital Justice Lab, go to digitaljusticalab.ca. I can put it up on the screen here. I have their website, and you can go take a look. Nazma and Trinity Square Video have been collaborating for a few years now on an artist residency on digital justice called Virtual Grounds. And I'm happy to share the website for that. I've just got it on my other monitor. So I can pull it up, if we have questions about it, happy to pull up and talk just a little bit about it. I would rather that Trinity and Digital Justice Lab talk about their collaboration, but really some of our work, we both came up with the ideas around the same time, but they are further ahead in terms of working with artists to make art or think about making art about digital justice. So we just had some discussions with artists and producers broadly nationally about what are digital justice? What do you think it is? What do you know about it? What don't you know about it? Are you interested in it? Very, very broad. And we had like an hour and a half. So we weren't able to go into as much detail as the Trinity Square Video amazing project has for the past 2 years. But we're very much like inspired by that project. And so in this graphic is a beautiful graphic recording by Drawing Change out in Vancouver, where in the top left-hand corner there's a summary of what digital justice, some of the principles of digital justice are from one of the founding organizations that really did a lot of the thought around digital justice, which is the Detroit Digital Justice Coalition. Their website is not that current, but they are very historically important to the movement of digital justice. And the principles of digital justice that they share, that Nazma talked about in our workshop, are access, participation, co-ownership, and healthy communities as essential ways of realizing a better digital and human world. There are many challenges to those digital inequities that are both about access, privacy, surveillance, and big technology. Our participants talked about fear-mongering versus critical, compassionate engagement in digital tools and digital communities, and that there are many barriers to both increasing access and strengthening current levels of access for communities on the margins, and those like myself who have a lot of privilege and are ready and willing to pay a little bit of money to go even deeper in order to work harder to improve access for those that can't. So there's really, in this graphic, in the very far right-hand corner, there is the change we want to see is ultimate for digital justice is often about government and social policy in terms of what decisions do we make about using our dollars and using our hands and our communities. What are we fighting for? What are we caring for? What are our practices for fighting for joy? Are we fighting for joy only in our real life communities? Or what digital justice says is now, okay, there's a demand that we need to fight for joy in our virtual communities, and we need to fight for joy in our natural communities as well. So there's so much more that we could go into from this graphic, but that is ultimately the purpose of why Together There, is to take this knowledge, this essential wisdom, and go deep with it. And this is just a little bit more tidbit, and I think I can go for 10 minutes and I'll be finished, and then we'll have time for questions, if that's all right, Rachel? Okay, great. So this graphic is a summary of some of the knowledge from all of the digital ASO roundtables, and it's very complicated, and there's a whole blog article that describes it, and the link is on the screen, but you can go find it by searching Digital ASO Knowledge Framework Preview on our website. What I want to point out in this Venn diagram in green on the left-hand side is the theme of knowledge that we heard from the community about what a positive digital future looks like of advancing a just society. And this is ultimately a vision of digital justice. And there are 5 measures that we heard and identified in the community. And they are an addition to what comes from the Detroit organization, and they're different, and there's some similarities as well. From the art sector, they include rights, ownership, and IP of content, etiquette in terms of like recognition of how we engage culturally with communities, whether it's like Indigenous land acknowledgement or wanting to have digital technologies that amplify and support real world engagement, not just squares on a screen, but trying to be more real in our digital spaces. Language, autonomy, and access are the other 3. So this is just a little bit of a tidbit of some ideas that we might be exploring with all of you if you decide to engage with our new project called Together There Ensemble La, or Ensemble là-bas. And this is generously supported by the Digital Strategy Fund. It's going to last from all of this year and probably most of next year in a multi-phase plan with lots of funding from the County Council. Thank you. It is a digital first, so online, creative thought residency and ecosystem building effort. So the creative thought residency tries to pull on the co-creation action that I mentioned at the top, and ecosystem building is similar to digital ASO. So thought residency and ecosystem building effort to collectively envision a caring and just digital future, led with, by, and for all of those equity-seeking groups that I've been talking about since the beginning. But for this project, they specifically include Indigenous, racialized, outside the core, and disability creators, curators, educators, and producers. For me, just to be specific, racialized includes Black, Brown, and other people of color. Disability includes capital D and small d deaf. It includes blind, neurodiverse, and other disabled folks. And outside the core includes suburban, rural, and remote folks. And to me, we're very open to what suburban, what rural, and what remote means. You may live only 20 kilometers from a major city, but you have, pardon my language, crap internet. And so you actually might be a remote community from a digital perspective, even though geographically you're not. So we're not looking at geographic definitions of what suburban, rural, or remote actually means. Okay? That's very important. Okay, so the timeline and a little bit about what we're going to be doing. from June to December of this year is primarily the focus on the thought residency. So we'll be hiring artists from any discipline from anywhere in Canada, and producers and educators from any discipline anywhere in Canada, anywhere between probably a dozen, but anywhere between 10 and 15 people, to explore through a bunch of co-creation, human-centered design, participatory, experimental, digital, and like as much as possible human dialogues, what digital justice might actually mean. And this could, we want and hope it will result in some art. We don't have huge fees. The fees will range for artists anywhere between $1,500 and $2,500. It depends on how many participants we have. So if we're looking to engage artists mostly to talk with each other and explore how we can, what digital justice means and what we potentially might create using artistic wisdom and artistic practices to share those thoughts. And if that's a poem or some storytelling or a dance performance or a sketch of a dance performance or a website or a photograph or a bunch of viral memes, that would be great because we can share those, or a bunch of lo-fi paper drawings that, you know, you put your camera and show on your desk, oh, here, and you animate the paper with your hands, like that would be awesome. To tell your little stories about what you think digital justice is and why the arts are important in realizing it and why the arts need to have digital justice, whether it's about rights and ownership of our content or recognition of our cultural assets and ways of thinking and doing, or looking at our belief systems and trying to challenge capitalist, extractive, exploitive, surveillist solutions that are very large and very profitable to try to challenge how those platforms are built and to support the advocation and the emergence of alternatives. So we'll be hiring 12 curators, actually 8 curators for the thought residency. And those job descriptions are open now. And we would like to hire and start onboarding in April or March of this year for the June residency. There's also, in addition to the residency, a symposium. And this will build on the first 2 editions of the Digital Arts Services Symposium, but it'll be specifically about digital justice internationally in all these priority communities that we've been talking about. Arts, likely, but possibly outside the arts as well. Artistic industries, creative industries, cultural industries, and alternative not-for-profit social justice communities as well. So that is tentatively scheduled for spring 2023. But if we work in real human time, and that's a very flexible thing these days. So the timing of the symposium may shift. In September to December of this fall, and that timeline may also shift if we're not ready, there'll be some open free workshops for the wider community nationally to participate and contribute, challenge, and support what the artists are coming up with. So we are, as I said, we're recruiting now Indigenous, racialized, outside the core, and disability creators, curators, educators, and producers from anywhere in Canada. The thought residency curators are $10,625 as a flat fee. We're looking for 4, basically one each for the 4 priority groups. The symposium curators is the same compensation, looking for 4, representing the 4 groups. And then we're also hiring working group leads or working leads for each, representing each of the 4 groups. And they are more administrative, knowledge seeking, knowledge evaluation, grandmother hand-holding roles, trying to be the listener and the engine of feedback and support for the people that are going deep and getting lost in going deep. They're the grandmothers and the children constantly holding out their hands saying, okay, this is what I think this is where we are, don't you think? And bringing people back when they get lost. So their compensation, and they're supporting actually the symposium and the residency. So their compensation is essentially double at $22,500 with at an hourly rate instead of flat fee. We are committed to living wage in our organization, and we for these kinds of roles, we don't go below $28 an hour. And for this role, we will go up to probably $38 or $40 an hour, depending on skills and expertise. The actual call for residency participants won't be live until we've hired the curators and we've decided on the actual approach. There's definitely a plan, a proposed plan for how things will work in place, but we need to work with that and confirm that with all of the participants and get buy-in before they go live. But we're hoping to have that sometime in the spring. For the full job postings, you can just visit our website and go to artspond.com/jobs. And if you have any questions about the jobs or about the project, I'm going to go into more detail because I spent too much time talking about ArtsPond and our other projects at the beginning of this. On February 7th at 1 p.m. It's a Zoom meeting, but there will be a link not yet published with live streams to Facebook and I think probably YouTube as well. In case you can't make the Zoom meeting, there'll be recordings available of that session afterwards if you can't make it. So I think that's, thank you. Thank you for your attention, for listening. I hope you found that interesting, and I'm ready and willing to take any questions that we might have heard from our folks in our virtual worlds. So I'll hand it back to Rachel to let me know what we've got.
Thanks, Jessa. That was awesome. Like, before we go any further, just a few things that really sort of jumped out at me. First of all, ArtsPond is really interested in a lot of different areas like equity seeking and your projects that you're working on. There's so many of them and they're very interesting. Like I already wrote hash like circled that. But the 63 priorities, like that graphic really with the circles and the eyeball looking, you know, and the veins going out to the sides, it was just jam-packed and there was so much information there. Like, congratulations on the work that you are doing with your organization. It's unbelievable and very much needed. So thank you for stepping up and taking on the work.
Well, thank you. And I have to acknowledge that graphic in particular is reliant on so many folks. It comes from 6 years of listening and being challenged by our community. And so it is not mine. It is our community, and there's 4 folks in particular that I'd like to just acknowledge. They include Margaret Lamb, John McPherson, Cynthia Likers-Sage, and Peril Pandaya, who all supported our digital ASO project, and their work with us to think about equity, access, and inclusion was really essential fodder in challenging some of the work that I had done previously that wasn't public. Just want to say thank you to them for that.
That's great. Thank you. So just in case people wonder, I will frequently be looking over to my right to check the comment box. So I'm not, distracted, but we do have 2 comments that I'd like to share before we get into the questions. One is a thank you for the outline. And the second is hats off to your graphic designer. That was a lot of information to pack into small amounts of space.
That's me.
Oh, great. There you go.
I don't have a budget to hire a graphic designer. I would love to, but so I'm the graphic designer of all ArtsPond visual content.
Well, hats off to you. Thank you. Okay, so we have some questions that came in ahead of time, but if you're in the space and you'd like to put a question in the chat box on Facebook, I am constantly checking and refreshing my page to try and get those. So let's get into, what gave you the idea? What gave you the idea to launch this project?
Our community.
Yeah.
When we when I first started all those digital projects that I talked about, I wasn't thinking about digital justice. I wasn't thinking about the larger systems. I knew that they were a problem, but I was trying to look at very specific issues of gig economy workers and these equity seeking communities that we don't have access to tools that are built by and for us. Just most of the tools for budgeting or marketing or contact or fundraising management, they just don't reflect artistic practices, or they do and they're not affordable. So the early days is very much about communities telling me, and my experience 20 years as a producer, building systems time and over, like just replicating new system. Okay, here's a new budget template yet again. For working with an artist, here's a new quantitative impact number tracking system in Excel. Yet again, I was just tired of having to develop all those tools. So in the early days, it was really much of responding to those issues. But as we started developing and receiving funding for these projects, and as the larger focus of ArtsPond was moving increasingly from not just precarity, but all the underlying issues, systemic issues that are actually, under the core of precarity, meant that I was looking at the complex system, not just individual ecologies, but the entire system of opportunity and barriers. And that's where digital justice for me, okay, it's not just economic precarity, it's digital precarity. It's not just social precarity, it's spatial precarity, where our homes are no longer predictable or affordable. And that we can't now go digital unless we have a home that's affordable, with affordable and sustainable internet. And increasingly, we can't work in the gig economy unless we can afford to have both of those things. And that is not by any means a guarantee for anyone anymore. And so it is essential for our organization, and I'm not seeing a lot of folks trying to look at and work with communities to look at all of the complex issues and to try to, I'm an action-oriented person, so I want to listen and I want to understand and research, which for me is the codependent issue, let's say strategies or practices of knowledge seeking, listening and learning from others, and then knowledge stewardship. So we can't just research anymore. We must do knowledge seeking and describe how we're seeking that knowledge, and respecting where that knowledge comes from is then the stewardship part. But not just respecting where it comes from, making it accessible in a timely manner, in an understandable and relatable manner, using human language. And I'm at fault for not doing a good job at that, both human language and in a timely manner, but I'll take that I have a lot on my plate. And I'm disabled. I get sick very easily. I had pneumonia 6 times last year, and I was sick for 14 weeks out of the year. So that's my excuse for not being timely. But that's a long-winded answer for like why digital justice. To me, digital is increasingly a part of the complex contributions to precarity in the arts sector. And I can't deny it, just like I can't avoid all the other complex issues. I just have to.
Yeah, I have this is a 2-part comment question. I'm going to read the second comment to it first, because I think it ties in and I feel the same. And that is, I'm captivated by your work. And then the first part of that comment is, I see on your website that there are board member positions posted. Yes. Are these available too?
Yes.
So
yes, there are. When we first started, we had a board of 14, and then we got down to 6 or 9, and then we got down to 6, and now we're down to 5. And I'm needing given the scope of the complexity of the work, but also the number of projects that we're doing and the stewardship responsibilities and accountabilities that we need to take on means we need more folks on our board, including more artists. I know it's hard for artists to join boards, but we only meet 5 times a year, 4 governance meetings each quarter and an annual general meeting. And often an annual general meeting or one of those board meetings is also a visioning session. So it's and if you can only attend 2 meetings a year out of those 4, that's fine. So it's not a huge load.
Looks like you might get a new board member from your presentation night, which is amazing. So we talked about the major dates in the project timeline, so I'm going to skip that question if that's okay. So in your in a grand dream, what outcomes do you envision from together there?
So we have a budget to hire an omnimedia designer. And then the working leads are going to be our listening repositories. And so they will bring back to the omnimedia designer all the best insights and all the best ideas and whatever collateral is created, whether they're really lo-fi scans of or animations that are paper on your desk, or whether they're performances or written content that's a poem, and we'll try to bring those all together into a comparative, contrasting, inspirational digital archive. And we would like to launch that archive at the symposium and invite the artists and the curators to come and talk about that archive at the symposium.
Wow, that's amazing. Very interesting.
So that is, I'm not expecting completed artwork at all. That's not the purpose, but I would love it, of course. I would love artwork, or at least something that is shareable, that's virable, in order to get the word out, because there's so much wisdom and knowledge in our community, and I want to make sure that we have opportunities to recognize the knowledge and wisdom and experience of the participants. And so creating work that does become virable will be the way to do that.
That's awesome. I'm just going to check our chat again and just remind anyone, if you would like to put a question in the chat, please go ahead. We just have a couple minutes left with Jessa. This has been amazing. And just remind us again, who should be applying for the positions of posted. I've put it in the chat a couple times, the link, and some of the websites you've spoken about, I've tried to put in the chat while we're going, but who should be applying for the positions?
For the curators, I'm really looking for young people, mid-career and elders, different ages, different locations, different abilities, whether you're early in your career, but you know lots of folks and you're inspired and have lots of energy and you know who should be there, or you have really good ideas of young folks and mid-career folks and elders that should be there. I'm wanting to recognize the opportunity and potential of artists in any career level. So we actually want to have a mixture of young folks and experienced folks and folks that don't know as much about digital, but know a lot of artists and can connect us to those artists that recognize the equity-seeking communities that we're trying to reach. We will obviously need some curators who have digital knowledge. Otherwise, we won't be able to support the participants. We can't all not know anything or have ideas. So we'll want a mixture of some experts and some energetic folks. For the working leads, it's really about knowing community, being a good listener, being a good producer of events and supporting participants, knowing where they need to go and what's expected of them, being a good documenter, whether it's visual graphics or good storytelling afterwards, or if you're a real analytical person and you know software like NVivo for qualitative analysis, we have that software package. So there's lots of variants for interest and skill sets around the working leads. It's ultimately about supporting the participants, both at the symposium, to know what they're doing and are there, and to document and disseminate whatever comes out of from the thought to residency or from the symposium. Whatever that they share, those key tidbits are shared out to the community.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Okay, I'm just checking. I don't think we have any more questions. Do we have any more questions? We have a little bit of a lag, so I'll just wait until that question shows up on Facebook. This has been a really great conversation. Your passion for equity really shines through, and it's so amazing to hear about what you're doing and this project that you're starting. And I think a lot of our membership will be really interested. You know, a lot of things that come up in our meetings are, you know, oh, you know, rural internet, like, or not, we don't have the access to this, or, you know, and a lot of us live with that in our communities daily. So it would be definitely of a lot of interest to a lot of our members, and we look forward to sharing more information about the program as it becomes available.
Can I say one thing about that I forgot to mention, specifically to your members from rural communities that don't have good internet? Yes, this project is a digital first, but if you really want to participate and you don't have internet, or you have unpredictable internet, we will find a way around that. We will find and make, we don't have funding and capacity, and because of COVID, we're not going to come visit you, but we'll find a way to make it happen. Okay, whether we buy a phone plan and we send the phone to you, so you get a data plan and you can participate, like we'll make an opportunity for you to participate. Okay,
that is amazing.
So just don't worry about your internet. We don't have money to buy a lot of computers, but here's a challenge to the community. Know some donors, some sponsors that could give us access to tech. We will make it accessible to participants.
Yes, I love it. Okay, we have 3 comments here, comments/questions. The first is from one of our board members, and it says, so SPARC is populated by arts workers and gig workers. Many of us have side hustles too, most of whom are digitally, if not literally, remote. While acknowledging my own privilege as a white woman, how can I help? What can SPARC contribute, and how can ArtsPond help SPARC members? Well, you've mentioned right now an opportunity to help, but what are some other ideas? What can we do?
You could, we're gonna have some more roundtables as a part of the Digital ASO project this year. So you could come and attend those and just reflect on the question, what does a positive digital future look like to you? And what is the role of your support services community in helping you get there? Reflect on that question and share that with Rachel, with your government, with your MPs, with other artists. Discuss it. And then when you have something that you think is really true and gut-wrenching in that truth, then bring it to the table and acknowledge all the folks that brought that realization to the fore. And then we can spread the word, and we will be inspired and informed by that. I think that's the biggest contribution. Yes, you can apply for the jobs or join our board, or we'll have volunteer roles. I just haven't had the opportunity to write them yet. There will be opportunity and figure out how I can manage them, but there'll be opportunities for volunteer engagement. So if you're really interested, you could just wait for those, or you could write me. Come to explore with Jessa, like set up a calendar meeting and come talk with me for half an hour about whatever it is that you would like to talk about, and we can explore some ideas of how you might participate.
Perfect. Okay, 2 more comments. We've got a big thank you from another one of our board members, from a member. We've got, I'm so excited about the project, with some exclamation points. And actually from another board member, good work on narrowing the digital divide. So I think that's going to take us out tonight. I'm going to stop the live stream in a second. I just really wanted to say again, thank you for coming tonight and sharing this with us. This is very exciting, and it's very impactful for our members. And we're really looking forward to supporting this project however we can, as we know that in in the end, it will be supporting our members and our community as a whole. So thanks, Jessa, for taking the time out of your really busy schedule. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I'm going to end our live stream now. So thank you, everybody. We hope you had a great night. And if you have friends that want to see this, it's going to live on our Facebook and we will be posting it on our YouTube. And we got another thank you just as we're leaving. Okay.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.